What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Ultra League submitted to the channel by Mario Plumber 014, who's running a triple Serpent-like theme team with Gorebyss, newly released Center Scorch, and a shiny XXL Gorebyss. Now this trainer actually mentioned in response to a recent question of the day about what was the worst Pokemon they built this season, and Gorebyss for the Ultra League was their answer. So it kind of goes without saying, this Pokemon is not very good, but it'll be fun to see what this trainer can do with it. Also, who remembers when Niantic randomly gave Draining Kiss to a bunch of Pokemon in a seasonal move update, hinting towards maybe the move getting a potential buff in a future season, only for them to never actually buff the move, and instead it just diluted the move pool for a bunch of different Pokemon, making it even harder to actually get the moves that you want to run. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which move, fast or charged, are you most surprised hasn't received a buff since the start of the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Gyarados into Dragalge. We are on Dragon Breath, so this is a positive matchup for us, obviously hitting for super effective damage. The opponent just going to go straight for an Arctotail, which we can of course resist, so we're going to no shield. Arctotail non-stab as well, doesn't do much damage. They then swap into a Sizzle, and we can hard punish them with our Center Scorch here, of course. The opponent going to go straight for a Night Slash, no boost, and they're not even going to reach a second Night Slash before we fully Ember, farm them all the way down. They come back in with Dragalge, very good charge move timing here, going after 4 Embers. Crunch going to get them very low, and the opponent will be forced to throw a charge move. At this point, we're happy to let Center Scorch go down. Arctotail gets the KO there. We can come back in with the Gyarados, but they've actually got a Venusaur in the back, and suddenly things are looking a little bit tricky for us. We go straight for Crunch there, and Crunch is going to be shielded. We do not get the defense drop, and if we commit to only Crunches, I don't know if we will reach a third Crunch before they fully farm us down. So we go for Crunch number 2, grab the final shield, no defense drop once again, and we're not going to reach a last second Crunch, so having to settle for the resisted Arctotail. Arctotail not going to do much damage, and now it's all up to Gorebyss. We're going to come in, we're going to have to shield this up, as the opponent is going to go and full send a Solar Beam. That would be massive overkill, and at this point, now because of that very poor pacing of Solar Beam, we should just be able to comfortably shield again. It's just a Sludge Bomb this time around, but now we can go for the resisted Water Gun Farm Down. We come out with a charge we've loaded, but instead, we're going to save some time, go for the Water Gun Farm Down up against Dragalge, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, Sit and Polion in the lead. So of course, both fast moves are going to be resisted in this matchup, and we've only got coverage moves here to hit for neutral damage. So the opponent is going to fire off the charge move straight away. The opponent goes for the Drill Peck, which does actually do some decent damage in this matchup. Likewise, Crunch should also do some pretty decent damage here as we do throw it, and the opponent is going to have their defense drop. We can now outpace them to the next charge move. We tried to throw it on possibly CMP there, but either way, the opponent does not throw. Arctotail going to be shielded by the opponent. They're committing to a fast move farm down, but Gyarados actually comes out on top there, getting the farm down, coming out with the Arctotail loaded as well, so going to fire off straight away regardless of what comes in, and the opponent actually shields their Cresselia, which is a very strange decision. Of course, I guess maybe we could have reached a Crunch there, but either way, you do not shield a Cresselia, especially up against like a non-shadow Pokemon that has non-stab damage. That's going to be super effective, but either way, the opponent goes for a Grass Knot. That's double resisted before swapping into a Snarl Guzzlord. So this game should be well and truly over. We're going to go for the lunge, debuffing their attack. We're not going to shield this as well, which is kind of strange. Brutal Swing, of course, not going to do too much damage, but they are on Confusion on that Cresselia. But either way, I guess we're just saving both shields for Gorebyss. Once again, Lunge is going to get the KO there. We can come in with the Gorebyss, and at this point, there's just nothing they can do. These Confusions not really hurting that much. We can just safely double shield if we need to, reach a Water Pulse, and then commit to the full Water Gun Farm Down. It's a very good charge move time in there, going for the Water Pulse. Water Pulse does respectable damage, and we can just commit to that Water Gun Farm Down, taking out Cresselia, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, see a Muck in the lead. So of course, this is going to be an awkward matchup for us, as they are probably on Thunder Punch and they do throw immediately. So definitely going to have to shield this. This is going to hit for double super effective damage. We are now going to overfarm. We're going to fire off a Crunch here. Crunch does do slightly more damage. Also, it does have a chance to drop the defense, and we do get the defense drop, and we're going to swap and catch the next Thunder Punch onto our Center Scorch. Very nice play there. Thunder Punch, non-stab, doesn't do much damage when it's not double super effective. They're now going to bank a little bit of energy and come in with a Giratina Origin form, which you don't see too often in the Ultra League. However, it is actually not that bad. We go for Crunch. Crunch does respectable damage, and it's going to force the opponent to throw their energy. At this point, Shadow Ball is easily going to take out the Center Scorch, but we put them into range where maybe Gyarados can come in and commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down, and we're able to do exactly that. The opponent's going to come in with a Skeledirge, and I don't know if they got a full Incinerate in for free there. Kind of hard to tell. It looks like they maybe lagged a little bit there. Nope, I think they did get the Incinerate through. But either way, we're going to fire off a second Aqua Tail. This should grab the final shield from the opponent. We can now just swap into our Gorebyss, and we probably do shield this. Obviously, the Mug does have access to Thunder Punch, but a Shadow Ball probably does more damage. However, the opponent baits with a Torch Song there, which is very unfortunate for us. But either way, the opponent going to come back in with the Mug. They go for Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch does big damage. I think we should have committed to a full farm down there, but we're going to fire off the Water Pulse. Water Pulse gets the KO there. They come back in with the Skeledirge, but they actually get the farm down. But somehow, Gyarados able to Dragon Breath farm them down. I feel like they had another charge we've loaded there. But either way, we're able to come out victorious. Into the next battle, I'm going to see Skeledirge in the lead this time around. So we are going to stay in this matchup. Perfectly fine matchup for the Gyarados. Kind of surprising that the opponent is not swapping out unless Gyarados does core break their team. So we go for the Aqua Tail. I'm going to grab a shield from the opponent, and the opponent is going to overfarm quite considerably, farming up to 100 energy. We're going to no-shield this, and it's just a Disarming Voice, which honestly does not do much damage. Now, again, we're actually going to go for a crunch here. I don't think we really need to. I think Aqua Tail would be enough damage to get the KO from that range, so it's kind of just a waste of energy. But either way, we're happy to let the Gyarados go down. Disarming Voice does get the KO there. We can now come in with the Gorebyss. We've got 2 shields, and we are going to start to use them here, as the opponent is going to go and send another Disarming Voice there. Probably didn't need to shield that, but either way, we get the Water Gun farm down, and they come in with a Gastrodon. So this is fine with us. We're going to throw on CMP, a little bit risky for us, just because, I mean, there's no guarantee that the opponent goes straight for a Body Slam there, but it works out this time around, as they do throw it immediately. We're going to no-shield the first move there, as they go for a Body Slam, and can we reach another Water Pulse before they farm us down? I don't think we're going to get there, but either way, the opponent does throw a charge move anyways, just to make sure they get rid of the Gorebyss. We can now come in with the Center Scorch, and we are going to just barely miss out on a full fast move farm down. We're actually going to use our final shield here. The fact that the opponent does not swap out means maybe they've got something weak to Center Scorch in the back, and it's kind of the case. We do, of course, resist the fairy damage from Clefable. However, we are going to only hit for resisted charge move damage, which is definitely not ideal. We can go for lunge, debuff their attack. The opponent actually goes for a Moonblast first time around there, as it does do more damage than a Swift. However, Swift probably is the better play just because it is a lot spammier than that Moonblast, and now we've double debuffed their attack here. The opponent is going to settle for the Swift, but Swift not enough damage to get the KO, and Center Scorch able to reach a last second lunge as they do reach another Swift, and of course lunge gets the KO up against Clefable, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we see Gyarados into a Giratina Origin form once again. So, of course, I did just mention that you don't really see this Pokemon in the Ultra League that much, and now we've seen 2 of them in the same video. But either way, we are going to no-shield, as the opponent does just go straight for an Ominous Wind. Fine with us. We're now actually going to bait with an Aqua Tail, which is kind of interesting considering we're going for Crunch when it's not super effective in a lot of matchups. But either way, we are able to grab a shield. At this point, we probably just shield once and then go for a full Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent goes for Ominous Wind once again, no boost this time, and the opponent does actually bank some energy before swapping into a Charm Grand Ball. So, going to respond with the Center Scorch, and we're going straight for Lunge. And once again, Lunge is going to be resisted damage, and the opponent is actually going to no-shield that. That's kind of interesting. A lot of Grand Ball are typically going to shield pretty much anything you throw. However, the opponent goes for Crunch there. Crunch drops our defense, but we do get that Ember farm down. They come back in with Giratina just to be farmed down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Nidoking. So we go straight for lunge here, permanently debuffing their attack. Didn't really need to do that, it doesn't really matter. But at this point, we've got back-to-back Aqua Tails, and actually debuffing their attack might allow us to live the fast move damage here and reach a second Aqua Tail. So that actually works out. It doesn't really matter too much because we've got Gorebyss in the back anyways. And of course, we can come in, go for the Water Gun farm down, taking out that Nidoking, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, we got Gyarados into a Dusknoir. So this is going to be a little bit tricky for us just because these Astonishes are going to chunk and they will reach the charge move at the same pacing as us the first time around, but actually outpace us the next time around. So we are going to overfarm and we are actually going to commit to a Crunch this time here. So Crunch, of course, going to hit for super effective damage and they no shield. So we're able to Dragon Breath, farm them down, win the zero shield scenario there as they come in with a Shadow for Alligator. At this point, it's quite tricky for us. We're going to stay in with the Gyarados, fire off the Aqua Tail, Octel, and then probably just allow them to fully farm us down, which is definitely not ideal. But of course, we can't really swap out there because Scented Scorch is not going to have a great time up against Feraligatr, but they actually swap out. They bank a ton of energy. They come in with a Primate here. The opponent going to go straight for a Rage Fist. Rage Fist not going to do too much damage the first time, but of course, each time they use it, it's going to boost up their attack. So at this point, honestly, if we no-shield this, they could probably just fully Karate Chop farm us down. So now we're going to fire off a Crunch here. I probably would have gone for Lunge just to debuff their attack by one stage. But either way, Crunch is not going to drop their defense, which is probably the only reason we go for Crunch there. And now the opponent will reach another Rage Fist. Rage Fist gets the KO there, and we're not going to be able to go for a full Water Gun farm down either. So this is not looking too good for us. We're going to shield up the Rage Fist, kind of have to at this point. But the damage is now done. Even if they don't have Crunch here, if they've only got Hydro Cannon and Ice Beam, it's still going to be game over. Unfortunately, Draining Kiss, one of the worst charge moves in the entire game. You're going to see non-stab. Draining Kiss doesn't even take out a Shadow Feraligatr from that range. The opponent does have a second Hydro Cannon, easily taking out the Gorebyss, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But going into the next battle, we see Gyarados into a Flygon. So the opponent is going to be running Dragon Tail as the fast move, so not quite as dominant a matchup for us, but they're now going to swap into a Waterfall and Empoleon. Now, we kind of panicked there, go for an Octel. I think, obviously, if we maybe thought about it, we would have gone for the Crunch there, as the opponent doesn't end up shielding. But at this point, kind of forced to stay in here as they are on Waterfall. Gorebyss not going to do great in this matchup either because we've only got resisted damage. So just staying in with the Gyarados, going for the Crunch this time around. And Crunch does connect. It drops their defense. And now we can come in with the Gorebyss. And we're actually able to Water Gun farm them down there. I feel like they should have reached a charge move, but either way, they're going to come in with Electivire, and we are going to allow them to throw a charge move straight away. They might bait us here, but no, they full send the Wild Charge, easily taking out the Gorebyss there. So Gorebyss, like, what the heck are you even doing? At this point, we're going to come in with the Center Scorch. Going to be forced to shield this up. They've already full sent a Wild Charge, and they do it again. They come back in with the Flygon. This should just be a Dragon Claw, though. So Dragon Claw is going to hit, not that hard, really. So we can come back in with the Gyarados, and we are going to go for an Octel here. Octel is going to probably grab the final shield from the opponent, and we're going to get them incredibly low, but they do come out with another charge move. This one, of course, Center Scorch, going to have to tank this. No shields in play. Dragon Claw, we're able to tank it. And let's see, can we commit to a full ever farm down? Yes, we're able to do so up against Electivire, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we see Gyarados into Cursula, which is a Pokemon I've actually never seen before, and I maybe want to try and use it in the Great League, although I don't know if it's even possible to obtain this Pokemon for the Great League, so I guess I'll look into that. But either way, they go for a Rock Blast there. I don't think Rock Blast is the play. You probably should run Power Gem. I believe it has the same moveset as the Galarian Corsola anyways, but either way, we are going to see the opponent's going to come in with Flourishes. We can completely wall them. However, that Moonblast does do nearly 50% of our HP, so yeah, just going to play it safe here. Go for the debuffing Lunge. Lunge is going to be shielded by the opponent. Very nice. And now at this point, we should be able to tank this, even if it is another Moonblast. So gonna no shield. It is the Moonblast. We're able to hang on just barely, but they do actually drop our attack this time around. Not ideal. We're going for Crunch here. I don't know if this does more damage, but Crunch doesn't quite get the KO there, and we come in with our Gyarados, but we can go for an Aquatel, throwing on CMP. Aquatel gonna be shielded by the opponent as well, so at this point we probably shield as well. Nope, never mind, we're gonna no-shield. It's just a Trailblaze. We're able to still get that Dragon Breath farm down. They come back in with the Corsola, also the Cursula. We can go straight for the Aquatel, getting the KO there, and they've got a Skeledirge in the back, and we will be able to reach a last-second Aquatel before they farm us down. Aquatel gonna do big damage there. And now, of course, now we can just come in with the Gorebyss, commit to a Water Gun farm down. They can throw a charge move, but actually, we're gonna swap, catch the move onto our Center Scorch for no reason whatsoever. It's a Blast Burn. We can now go for the Water Gun farm down, taking out the Skeledirge, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, see Gyarados into a Charizard. So this is a great matchup for us. The opponent is going to stay in initially here. Look like they lagged initially as well. They swap eventually into Annihilate, and we're just going to stay in here. This is fine with us. Of course, we're going to resist the counter damage. We go straight for Crunch. Once again, going to do more damage in this matchup. However, it is only marginal, so I probably would just go Octel most of the time. But either way, we're going to no-shield the first charge move. We're going to go for an Octail here before the opponent reaches a second Rage Fist. Octail going to be shielded by the Annihilate, and because they boosted their attack there, it looks like they were trying to commit to a farm down. They're not going to get it. Instead, we are going to shield up the Rage Fist, and now we can go for the farm down, but the opponent swaps into a Mewtwo of all Pokemon. We can go for the Octail, just trying to get off any damage before they snipe us, and it's actually an Armored Mewtwo. So, of course, Armored Mewtwo does have access to Rock Side, so I would definitely suggest shielding this first charge move. Just play it safe. It is the Side Strike. That's fine with us. At this point, we can now just go for a Lunge. Lunge going to debuff their attack here. Also, going to hit for super effective damage. Lunge going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and we should actually be able to live a Side Strike now that we've debuffed them. So at this point, the opponent does go for Side Strike. We're able to tank it. We can now go for one Ember, fire off the Lunge, and then I'd suggest just swapping into our Gorebyss straight away. Lunge gets the KO there. We are not going to swap out straight away. Instead, going for one Ember first. Now coming in with the Gorebyss. The opponent is going to throw a charge move here. The opponent goes for Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw not doing too much damage. They probably should commit to a Blast Burn at this point, as it's pretty clear Dragon Claw not going to be enough damage to get the KO, but instead they don't. They try to reach a last second charge move. They're not able to do so. We can just commit to a full Water Gun farm down up against Annihilate, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we see Gyarados into Trevenant, so a fairly neutral matchup here. Of course, we are going to hit for resisted damage with the Octail, but super effective with the Crunch. We're going to no-shield the first move here, as it will just be a Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb does some decent damage, but we can now overfarm, fire off the Crunch, and Crunch, of course, should be enough damage to get the KO from this range, but it grabs a shield from the opponent. Now, the opponent is going to commit to a full farm down here, and unfortunately, we don't reach another Crunch. Had to settle for the Octail, and Octail going to be shielded anyway, so grabbing both shields with our Gyarados, we can now come in with the Center Scorch, and we are going to shield the move. The opponent is going to full stun the Shadow Ball there. They then come in with a Togekiss. So we're going to stay in initially. Of course, we are resisting the charm damage. Lunge is double resisted, but it is going to debuff their attack there, making sure we can tank these charms very comfortably. And we're actually now going to swap out into our Gorebyss. Of course, Togekiss could have Ancient Power, which hits for double super effective damage up against our Center Scorch, which is why we did swap out there. But either way, we can now commit to the full Water Gun farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come back in with the Trevenant. We're going straight for Water Pulse here. Water Pulse is resisted damage. However, it will get the KO from that range. And what is the final Pokemon? It's going to be a Ceruledge. And unfortunately, they do Incinerate Farmers down. But Center Scorch will be able to reach a Crunch before they reach back-to-back Flame Charges. And of course, Crunch up against Ceruledge easily gets the KO there. And we're able to take that game. So go into the final battle of this video, leading Gyarados into a Kangaskhan, which is cool to see. Of course, they should be on Mudslap, which is going to be double resisted, so this is a great matchup for us. And there's just no reason to shield here. The opponent is going to go for a power-up punch there, really not helping them out at all. We can now go for a Crunch here. Crunch, of course, going to hit for neutral damage once again. I feel like we should just go straight Arctotel in these matchups, but either way, it doesn't really matter too much. We are going to shield the next charge move as the opponent goes for an Outrage there. That probably was the right play on the opponent's end there, going for the Crunch first, or sorry, the Power Punch first, and then going for an Outrage. However, we're able to call it. They come in with a Blastoise. This is really not a great matchup for any of our team, to be honest. So we're staying in with the Gyarados. I don't mind this. And we're going to go for Crunch number 2, grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point, you definitely just let the move go through. The opponent is going to go for a Skull Bash, boosting up their defense, but you can see it is an under-leveled Blastoise, so not too bad for us. We can come in with a Gorebyss. I'd probably just shield once and then go for a full Water Gun farm down, as unfortunately, they do just barely outpace us to their next charge move. It's another Skull Bash, which actually just gives us more farm for the Water Gun damage to get the KO there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come back in with the Kangaskhan. We're going to farm up to 100 energy, it looks like. Go for the Water Pulse. Water Pulse gets the KO there. And what is the final Pokemon? It's going to be a Nidoking again, which is very strange to see. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Nidoking in the Go Battle League. We've seen 2 in one video in the Ultra League, but we're able to get the one shot with the Water Pulse and take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.